Chapter 3 Foundations. The storm didn't stop. It dulled. Hours folded. Then, days. Berik slept on stone ribs, bound, breath shallow. The blood in his bandages dried in layers, red to brown. He didn't speak. He didn't stir. Rina sat against the far wall. Her glow dimmed with each hour, but never fully vanished. Her posture never broke, legs crossed, hands still. The vault's faint glyph light flickered in the lines along her arms. Sometimes she breathed. Sometimes not. Fenric kept busy. He'd moved supplies into a corner, set up a rough perimeter with broken crates and the edge of an old rusted frame. Found a dented kettle near the entrance. Scraped it clean. Hammered the bottom flat with a rock. He'd built a small cooking pit with stones and sand. It smoked more than it warmed, but it kept him focused. He spoke sometimes, never to them, just out loud. 3-point sweep. Rear confirm. Maintain posture. Enforcer Rule 6. No shadow unchecked. 2 eyes forward. Mind behind. Words from drills. Memorized during guild exams. They came up now like bile. He walked the inner chamber in wide loops, checked his weapon, rechecked, polished it with cloth torn from the inside of his shirt. It didn't help. The scratches stayed. When he passed Rina, he slowed. The light pulsed differently when he neared her, not brighter, just more aware, like it adjusted to his presence. One night, or what felt like night, he caught her humming. No melody, just a single tone, low and wrong, not her voice. "Rina?" he said. The hum stopped. She turned. Her eyes were dull gold, nothing behind them for a moment. Then she blinked, looked at him like she'd forgotten he was there. "You shouldn't be so loud," she said. Her voice was hers again, quieter, tired. Fenric nodded, backed away. He didn't sleep that night, or the next. On the third day the storm pulled back. The light through the entrance shifted pale gray, stretched thin through lingering dust. A low whistle replaced the shriek. The dunes no longer screamed. They waited. Fenric stepped outside with a cloth over his face. The world beyond was wreckage. Half-buried carts, rotted sacks, drag lines where bodies had been pulled into the storm. Nothing moved. He stayed low, scavenged tools, a few dried strips of meat, a cracked lantern, 2 unbroken water flasks. He climbed partway up the ridge and spotted the shattered solar rig one of the trade scouts must have hauled it along. It had split during the ambush. He recovered the lens and casing, dragged it back down. By dusk, he had a pile of components near the pit. Nothing worked yet, but it gave him a task. That mattered. Inside, Rina had moved. Not far. Her fingers traced the stone floor, slow arcs that followed seams in the tile. Where her fingers passed, faint glyphs flickered. First blue, then amber, then faded again. She didn't speak. She didn't look up. Fenric crouched nearby, one hand on his knee, watching. "You doing that on purpose?" he asked. She nodded once. "What is it?" Her voice didn't match her posture, calm, but not still. "Old systems. Sleep, locked. Some of it still intact." "You mean magic?" "Not quite. Structure. Bound function. Tethered script. It listens. Doesn't speak unless it knows who's touching it." Fenric scratched the back of his neck. "You're not guessing, are you?" She stopped tracing, looked at him. "No." "You remember this place?" "No." He frowned. "Then how?" "I recognize the runes. The other part of me does." She tilted her head slightly. Her hand twitched. "You've got another part now?" "Yes." "What's it want?" She turned back to the stone. Her voice dropped. "Control." Fenric stood slowly. Dust clung to his boots, legs, sleeves. He said nothing else. He moved back to the pit, tossed in a strip of meat to warm. The grease popped against the coals. He let it burn. Behind him, the glyphs flared again, brighter now. One strip of light ran along the inner wall, feeding into the seams that led deeper into the vault. He didn't ask what she'd done. She didn't say. Berik still hadn't moved. But his fingers twitched once, near the pulse in his ribs, enough to know he'd heard. Berik didn't wake. But he'd shifted, once at dawn, once near dusk. No sound. Just tension returning to muscle, breath catching, at the edge of sleep. Rina checked the bandages each time, never asked permission. Her hands moved with the same precision used to disarm glyph locks or trace runes in stone. She pressed 2 fingers beneath his ribs, adjusted the gauze, and watched the bruising fade from deep purple to mottled yellow. He healed fast, not unnaturally, just faster than he should. Fenric noticed, said nothing. Instead, he worked. The salvaged solar rig, cracked casing and all, now sat propped near the vault entrance. He realigned the lens using a strip of cloth and one of the steel frame pins. Every hour, he turned it toward the sun, watching the slow arc of light track across the sand. He repurposed Berik's spare cloak into a windbreak, dragged broken crates from deeper inside and pried nails loose with a rusted hook blade, built a platform, low to the ground, hammered it together with grit and booth heels, called it a table, started laying gear out by type: salvage, rations, blades, unknowns. Every item had a place. He cleaned each one with stripped cloth, checked weight, balance, wear. None of it helped, but it looked like it did. Behind him, the vault shifted. Rina had moved deeper, not all at once, but gradually. Each day she walked a little farther down the corridor that twisted left and vanished behind a collapsed support arch. On the third morning, Fenric followed her. The chamber she stood in had no ceiling. The stone above had split, clean a breach from something internal, not a cave-in. One wall had been melted, not burned. Melted clean slag lines, descending in streaks like frozen wax. The glyphs carved into the floor still pulsed faintly. She didn't turn when he entered. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said. She didn't answer right away. Her hand hovered above one of the floor line's 3 circles looped in a chain. "This wasn't meant for shelter," she said. Fenric stepped to her side. The chamber's light shifted when he moved. The old runes registered his presence, faint pulses in sync with his steps. "Expedition site," he said. "I've read about setups like this. Research stations built on old ley fractures, usually collapsed or stripped bare." "This one wasn't stripped," she said. "No?" She reached toward the far wall, tapped the stone once. A glyph flared not amber this time, but white, cold white, unfamiliar. Fenric stepped back. "What was that?" "A tether node. Fragmented. It still remembers part of its function." "Which is?" She turned to him. Her face looked like Rina's again, but her voice came from somewhere else. "Containment. Observation. Conversion." He stared. "You're just saying words now." "No," she said. "I'm translating." Fenric stepped around her, traced the edge of the chamber with the toe of his boot. Crushed glass glinted in the seams of the floor, tiny shards, long settled, untouched. He knelt and brushed a patch clear. Underneath, an arcane circle burned into the stone. Shackles bolted in at 4 points. He didn't speak right away. "This was a site," he said. "A proper one. Guild oversight, maybe? Or Codex. Someone with power." Rina said nothing. Her glow pulsed again, the low, rhythmic flicker of something listening. Fenric stood, rubbed his palms on his trousers. "We shouldn't stay." She looked at him. He shook his head. "I know. We will. But we shouldn't." Silence settled again. Wind outside. Stone inside. Behind them, faint footsteps. Berik stood at the edge of the collapsed arch wrapped in his cloak, left hand pressed to his ribs. He hadn't spoken, but his eyes tracked both of them. Fenric stepped back instinctively. Berik's voice came low, flat. "What did you find?" Rina turned toward him. The glow in her skin dimmed by degrees. "Foundations," she said. "Old ones, buried, damaged, functional enough." Berik's hand shifted at his side, not to draw a weapon to feel for one. "You woke them?" "Only enough to see," she said. They responded. Berik stepped into the chamber, boots quiet on dust-slick stone. His gaze swept the arcs carved into the floor. His hand brushed a groove at the wall, fingertips over melted stone. The heat had long gone, but the memory of it lived in the shape. He looked back at her. "You said they responded. To what?" She hesitated. Then, 2 voices at once. One quiet, one colder. "To me." Berik stared for a moment, then nodded. "Show me everything." Berik moved through the vault without speaking. Every few steps he paused, leaned his hand to the wall, and pressed fingers into old seams. The pain at his side flared sharp, then settled dull, constant pressure behind every breath. The bandages held, but barely. Rina had packed the wound tight, clean, exact. He didn't ask her how she'd known how. Fenric followed a pace behind, pack over one shoulder, crossbow low. The air inside the vault shifted with every corridor, one moment dry, the next stale and metallic. Somewhere beneath them, something hummed, not loud, not close, but steady. Berik stopped at the chamber's end. A stone door once barred passage, now shattered inward. Beyond, a room stretched long and narrow. An operating slab, or something like one, sat anchored in the center, wrapped in rusted fittings and scorched restraints. Two walls bore melted grooves, deep and irregular, like something had broken from inside. The third wall was smooth. No glyphs, no marks, just clean, dead stone. Berik stepped through. Rina stayed near the entrance. The glow beneath her skin flickered as if the room pressed back against her. Her eyes tracked the slab, but didn't linger. Fenric didn't follow them in. Berik reached the table, ran a hand across the surface. Rough, pitted, scorch marks around the base chemical, not flame. He tapped one of the metal clasps. It didn't move. He checked the ceiling. Faint tracks where piping once ran. Leftover arcane residue along the broken joints. He exhaled once, sat on the edge of the slab, looked toward Rina. You restored the conduit lines. Yes. You knew the words. No, she said. The other one did. He nodded. It's learning fast. She didn't respond. You remember what it is? I remember being her, Rina said. Her voice stayed level, but her posture shifted one step back from the doorway. I remember joining the guild. I remember promising to guide the caravan. I remember Fenric's oath, the way she felt when the first bolt hit. She touched the edge of the doorway with one hand. Fingers curled slightly. But I also remember the pull, the command, the shape of the map from above. I remember things she didn't, things I shouldn't. Berik leaned forward slightly. You're split. Worse, she said. I'm both, and they don't agree. She looked toward the smooth wall behind him. The map thrall obeys. It seeks. It moves toward coordinates. It hasn't been given yet. But the part that's still me keeps pulling the other way, asking why. Berik looked down at the table. The scratches near the clasp weren't marks of wear. They were patterns, scratch-written sigils etched in haste, as if someone had tried to seal themselves in. This place, he said, it wasn't just research. It was testing, field study on live tether responses. They strapped people down in here. Rina didn't flinch. You knew? I remembered when I touched the door. Berik stood again, stepped back from the slab. We'll use it, he said. This place. Seal the outer hull, reroute light through the lens frame. Add a second exit if we can find one. It's stable. Fenric finally spoke from behind the arch. You're sure? No, Berik said, but it's what we've got. He stepped past Rina, started back toward the entrance corridor. She didn't move. After a few breaths, Fenric followed him. At the base of the slope, he paused, looked back. Rina still stood alone in the chamber. Her eyes dimmed. She spoke, but neither of them heard. Two words, one voice layered over the other. I know.